Dear Bungie, confirm the weapon system with Destiny 2. What is going on, guys? This is Ntopio97 here, and today we're going to continue with our Dear Bungie um, series. And this is basically gonna be like a mixture of Dear Bungie and like an analysis slash talking to myself of how the new weapon system is going to work, and it's gonna be similar towards the Access video, with what is the best weapons to use against Access, Warpath and stuff like that, and honestly, how I feel about certain things. Um, so we're gonna talk about the weapons system with Destiny 2 and like how it's going to affect the entire game, how it's going to affect everyone that's going to play the game, how it's going to affect me personally, and what I think of it. Okay, so first of all, what is the new system? Okay, so the new system, instead of having a primary, a special, and a heavy, like a hand cannon, sniper, and like a rocket launcher or something like that, you now have like the kinetic weapon, which is, you probably know what that is. That's a primary that doesn't have the elemental damage. There's a energy weapon, which is any weapon that has like void burn, solar burn, or arc burn, and all that. And then you have power weapons, which is rocket launchers and machine guns and all that, but it's also going to be a new thing called a rock grenade launcher, which is gonna look really cool. We also have um, a lot of interesting weapons coming into the heavy slot, and also Bungie decided they're going to make fusion rifles, sniper rifles, shotguns, and all those into power weapons, which is like, huh, that's very interesting. So making it this system the way it is, a lot of the PvP people are saying, "Hey, that's a really good idea," and all that. And they've done little things where like energy weapons do more damage against supers, depending on what the damage, depending on what kind of elemental it is. And like, hey, that's actually really really good. And like it's gonna make it so that it's gonna be easier for people not um, to use different varieties of weapons without using snipers all the time, like what it is now with like icebreaker and sidearms and all that. So they have that, right? And but the thing is, with these changes, sometimes I feel that Bungie are making these changes solely because of the PvP community. Now, I love PvP. I play it like every day. I've been playing more PvP now because I've literally done everything, and like all I need to do now is like look for the only reason I want to play PvE is like one, doing some strikes and getting like random weapons like Imago Loop or Grats of Malik, and that's it. And two, um like going through the Vault of Glass and getting Found Verdict, because that's like the only weapon I want, right, that I don't have right now. That's like the only two reasons I would do PvE. And for the rest of the time, like Iron Banner is out right now, I want to do PvP. So I do PvP because it's fun, it's competitive, and it really like helps you with your downtime. Because since you're not doing any PvE stuff, like you just want to chill, do some Iron Banner, do some Crucible, and heck, Trials of Osiris during the weekends, and that's just really good, right? And I have to admit, the meta is kind of wonky right now with like everyone using their ability kills with fusion grenades, everyone using icebreaker, sidearms, and all of that, and basically all sorts of weapons that like uh, go away from the ammo system with special ammo. That every time you die, you will lose your special. While we're using weapons like icebreaker, sidearms, even invective for getting our one-shot kill slash very effective weapons, like basically going around that economy system, right? Like No Land Beyond is a great example, and even Universal Remote. So I am really glad that Bungie is doing that. However, um, with this change with kinetic energy and power weapons, I feel as if that you're getting rid of some of the benefits of having this system with this primary, special, and heavy with PvE. Because, with PvE, now you can have, like, right now, you can have, like, a hand cannon like Fatebringer that's really good. You can have the Ex Machina, which is an excellent sniper rifle. And you can have, like, Super Simulant, Dark Drinker, Gallahorn, etc. For your main damages, DPS, right? And that is a really good setup for the raid, for strikes, for the nightfalls. It just feels extremely comfortable. Everything is the way it's supposed to be. Like nothing feels overpowered. You could use all sorts of weapons that you want to use. You could use like fusion rifles if you wanted to, you know? And it feels extremely balanced. Like, there's not one weapon that feels overpowered. Like, one sniper shot, it kills like a boss instantly. With the exception of Gallahorn, of course. But now I feel with Destiny 2, like I haven't played the game yet, and who knows, I'm entirely wrong about this. Um, I feel as if that they're nerfing the PvE community, and I have to admit, a lot more people play PvE than PvP. Statistically, that is true. They do story missions, they do strikes, they do nightfalls, they do raids. Very few people do raids, but that's okay. Um, yeah, that's going to affect the PvE community. Now, that means if you have the system going, when you go into the raid, instead of having like a sniper and a heavy with you, you can only have a sniper or a heavy with you. And I'm wondering if that's going to affect the DPS process at all, or, you know, if we're going to have special weapons that's going to specifically use DPS for weapons and all that. So, yeah, honestly, like I feel like, what I've seen from the gameplay, like the changes look pretty um interesting, like with DPS and all that. Like I have to admit, there's one like weapon like a submachine gun on the energy slot that shows lots of promise of DPS. But that's about it. Like it doesn't. It honestly looks like an auto rifle that shoots forever for a certain amount of time until like you're finished, right? And honestly, that doesn't. I don't feel comfortable with like oh, I'm just gonna use a submachine gun for DPS. Like no, I want to use a sniper. I want to use a rocket launcher like Gallahorn, etc. And also, this is gonna be a new game where you're not go. There's most likely gonna be a case where you're not going to have Gallahorn anymore, though everyone's going to remember the weapon. And I don't know, it's gonna feel different, and I hope this difference doesn't affect the gameplay itself involving DPS, because not only I love Destiny, and I have this aspect of love playing Destiny because of its certain aspects of DPS or abilities, right? This is a first-person shooter, like first, and Bungie has said this from the past, but Luke Smith definitely has said, which is one of the developers, saying this also has MMO characteristics, and he definitely knows this. He has experience with MMOs. He have made MMOs. In fact, he made the raids, and this is the closest thing for a first-person shooter being an MMO. He played Borderlands. He played World of Warcraft. He played Diablo, and it just has the sort. And because of these games, it inspired him to make some content that has a lot of MMO quote unquote content. I am using the finger quotes um, into Destiny. So if you're getting rid of special and heavy, not being on the on your character equipped at the same time, then that's going to reduce your DPS, and it feels it's gonna be a little bit harder for you to do DPS. Now, there is a high possibility that Bungie is going to have it's going to switch that into the damage phases or damage numbers. With PvP, they have changed the damage time to kill it takes to kill somebody, and it takes a lot more shots and a lot more time to kill somebody. Who knows? Maybe it's a lot more faster to kill bosses now because of a buff for like all the weapons that you can use, right? So that might be beneficial for us, and if that's the case, hey, let's go at it. Now let's talk about if this system is basically the exact same DPS the way it is with primaries going against like minions and all that. Then let's talk about a system that's going to help us, differentiate between just random enemies and bosses. So this is what you can do. You can have a system which looks like this is gonna be the case with the system is you can have kinetic damage overall, do more damage against ads. Like, for example, like let's say you have 100% for all damage throughout the game, like against ads, against bosses, etc. And then it depends on what kind of archetype of weapon you're using, right? So let's say you're using a kinetic weapon against an ad. Well, because it's an ad and you're using a kinetic weapon, it is 150% damage against that ad using a kinetic weapon. But if you're using a special weapon, it's like only 100 damage, but special weapons just overall do more damage with the kinetic weapons, so it's gonna do more damage, right? So, if you're fighting a boss and you're using a energy weapon, then you're gonna do 150% damage against the boss, and the kinetic weapon is going to use 100% damage against the boss. So you see what I'm saying here. So basically make it so where the kinetic weapon is made to kill ads, which it should be, and have the special weapon focus on majors and yeah, okay, this is good. Kinetic weapons focus on regular ads. Special or energy weapons focus on majors like minotaurs and cabal, centurions and captains. Focus on that, and then have heavy focus on bosses, right? So it's like a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So depending on how powerful the enemy is, you use different types of weapons. And if you don't have any heavy ammo with going against a boss, then you can use your special ammo and still do a good amount of damage against the boss. And once you get rid of special, then you could do like then you could do your kinetic weapon, which is basically set up like it is today. Heavy doing a whole bunch of damage, then special, then primary. Basically make it so that even though that we don't have snipers on the second slot, that um, power weapons do the most damage. Then we have energy weapons that do the second most amount of damage against like bosses. Then you have kinetic damage that does that. So that's a good scenario. That's a good solution if the DPS is going to be um, under undermined, then that's a good way to like have everything balanced for PvE because you are changing something fundamental for PvE, and if you don't change that aspect of DPS, which is very important in PvE, then you're going to have some problems with the game itself. And of course, Bungie is an expert of making game engines, and so hopefully they'll actually think about the differences between power weapons and difference between Destiny 2's weapon system and Destiny 1's weapon system. And I'm pretty sure they are because, most of the time I'm saying that I hope or I'm pretty sure that they are thinking about this swap and they're thinking about the different details about the weapons is because, you know, if they're not changing in the first place, then they're not thinking about you know, the slots for the weapons, right? So out and just remember, uh, what we saw for the gameplay of the Destiny 2 so far is in its alpha stage, basically. So in the beta, it could be that the special can do a lot more damage, and it's like, oh, we don't have to worry about it. Everything just feels really good right now, right? So, okay, so let's go to the last thing I need to talk about. So, I've been having this question that goes through my mind. It's like, okay, we have swords, right? Like, we know that there's gonna be swords in Destiny 2. Like, there's a deluxe edition that's gonna have us have a sword, right? And through some of the gameplay, we have seen different types of swords. Like, we saw like a regular short sword, a katana, a long sword. You know, like heck, we have seen swords where like one person is using it with one hand, while another sword is you're using two hands, and you have like a really big sword that you use a great sword and all. And honestly, I am really excited about some of these weapons, but no one is talking about this. I am wondering how they're going to use these swords. Like, are the swords going to be on a kinetic swap, an energy slot, a heavy slot, etc.? So, if all swords are going to be in the heavy slot, then that's going to be interesting because we're not going to have swords. If you're going to have swords as a heavy slot, then you're going to have it so that you're going to do a lot of DPS with the sword. But what I want to have with swords is that you want like the one-handed swords to be in its kinetic slot, you know, and it doesn't have any energy, like, you know, that's the namesake of it. Then you have like the magical weapon swords that, like, you know, katanas, you know, long swords and all that. That it has energy on them, and it does more damage, right? And you have the most heaviest swords, like the great sword, or heck, you can have like Cloud's Buster sword in the heavy slot, and then that does the most damage. If Bungie makes it so that they can have swords in all three categories, then basically I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, then like I will have no problem having um with the weapon system, because like if it makes it so that like we're not gonna, once it's end game activity and we're not going to use any kinetic weapons at all, well, I could just use a sword because I just love swords and it seems to be efficient. So I can have like a sword, an energy weapon, and a power weapon, and I'll use that system for that game. And if that's the case, then hey, that'll be really really good. And maybe there'd be like some raid weapons that like the kinetic weapons are so good, and I'm like, okay, since this is so good, I don't have a really good energy weapon. I'll use that energy weapon for my katana sword, and I'll use it as much as possible. Or if you don't have a really good power weapon, then you're like, oh, I'm gonna use this really. I'm a Titan. I do a lot of damage, so I'm good in close combat. I'm going to use like this Buster Sword. I'm gonna do a lot of like damage. And also, if weapons absolutely suck, and if they have this system where you have swords both in all in kinetic, energy, and power weapons, then you know we're still gonna use them, but we're not gonna use it for endgame activities. Well, honestly, what this video is going to be about is I just hope that Bungie really thinks about the weapon system for Destiny 2. I know it's gonna be a better game. They have been saying this, and you know the story overall the story looks like it's just gonna be better. Really, we have seen more story with the kinetic with the trailers that we have seen with Destiny 2 more than the actual game of Destiny itself. And I can just tell it's gonna be a better game, but I just hope that they don't get rid of the good, like the best stuff out of Destiny 1, and they're not going to have that in Destiny 2. Like, just don't have that case where you're getting rid of all the bad stuff from Destiny 1, but you're not taking all the good stuff from Destiny 2 and you're like making brand new stuff. And it's going to, if you don't have that, then you're going to have some issues with some of the communities. Like, oh, why don't we have this certain thing? That was like really good for Destiny 1, and the way that you replaced this isn't isn't so good. Like, it's not as good as you had back at Destiny 1. Just make sure you, I don't know. I'm just a little YouTube channel saying how to do your job and all that. But, you're game developers. You've been thinking through this like all the time since like the Rise of Iron maybe. And just, hopefully you'll do an excellent job, and you'll make your game the way you want it to be. But most importantly, make it the way that the community wants to be. Destiny has one of the best communities of all time, and honestly, I am so glad that the community of Destiny is just so good. Like, it's not as toxic as all other communities like Call of Duty, Minecraft, Roblox, all sorts of games and all that. And honestly, it's not as toxic as like, it's just a good game. Like, there's nothing like extremely vile about it. Like, it's a rated T for teen game, and that's really rare for a really high up game being not rated M, which is, one of those benefits for Destiny. Like, you have more people playing the game because it's not rated M. That's honestly a really good choice for Destiny. And if Destiny's 2 rated M, that's gonna be a problem. So hopefully everything will work out with Destiny 2. I am super excited about it, and so if you guys are worried about me like not hating Destiny 2, I'm probably not gonna hate it. Just don't worry. Like, I'm pretty excited about it. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a good game and all. That is it. That is it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Don't forget to check out my Twitter. That's a really good way to keep up with my channel and what's uploading and what's gonna be available for YouTube. And don't forget to check out my fan page on Facebook, which is called NW Hunt 97 Gaming Community. So go ahead and check out the page. I'll link to it in the description box down below. And it's exclusive content. Like, you will not see this content on YouTube or Twitter. You're going to find this exclusively on the page. Okay, guys. Thank you, guys. God bless. Goodbye. And I'll see you next time.